this is Screenplay, the podcast with two professional screenwriters, Procrastinator Mike and Kevin, and he's Will.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very well. I was just about to get up our thingamajig. We're going to be talking about horror on this episode. It's a topic that we were drifting around because on the best bits, we've done jump scares. We've talked about death scenes and kill scenes and things like that. SFX stuff, which covered monsters. We've covered an awful lot on the old podcast.
The best bits.
Yeah. So on this, we've been sort of like sniffing around and thinking, well, what can we do? Because surprisingly well. And one of the things I thought that would be an endless source of inspiration for this podcast is that if we took something topical and then we spun off of that, but there's been fuck all like news that we could riff off of.
Yeah.
Except for the presidential election, which was fantastic. But we did presidents on the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know whether that's a sign of the health of the industry that there's not that much news. Where you can go like,
it does happen. It does happen. There are periods where you go between festivals and whatnot, and just things are a little bit quiet. I guarantee you, there'll be lots more news to discuss and to inspire episodes in the future.
But I did think that we would have the opposite problem, which is we would have 3 or 4 like really great topics to pick from each episode. And instead it's been like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Like, what do we react to?
We said we were going to lean into the seasonal side of it. We said let's go Halloweeny. Let's go Halloweeny. We were initially going to discuss horror villains, and that was something that was suggested by, I think, Paddy on our Discord again, one of our patrons. Thank you, Paddy.
Paddy McGinley.
What's his horror name? Paddy McGhostly. I think that's what his horror name is. That's what he might have renamed himself.
What's your one?
I don't... Oh! Someone had it.
When we did the best bits, the jump scare one, you know the Simpsons Halloween thing?
Yeah.
Treehouse of Horror, where they changed the names. So yours was Phil Coffins. And mine was just Kevin with like 7 exclamation marks. But at the moment on our Discord, my one is Craven. Craven Lehan.
Oh, Mr. Phil Coffins.
I came up with that. Good, aren't I?
That's excellent, yeah. You should write these.
Thanks.
But then I had a spin because I was looking at, like, I think we can talk about, I think we could talk about movie monsters, Hollywood, let's say, movie villain monsters, we'll say. But also I had a thought, like this is one of those pivot thoughts, where I went, you know what we've never properly discussed is...
A bank.
That's the true horror. That's the thing that looms over me like a dark spectre as I try and get to sleep at night and is there first thing in the morning, welcome me, seems at the end of my bed. Yeah, what do you think? So we could kind of like go all over the place, but for
I didn't even hear what you said. Pivot to what?
Pivoting to TV horror villains.
Okay, so when we were talking about this topic, you said, oh, we could talk about the moments from movies that gave us nightmares. And I said to you, and I mean this so sincerely, I can't recall ever having a nightmare based on watching a horror film. Now, I've certainly been scared watching horror films. Like really, really scared. Like scared where I am actually in a cold sweat. But I've never then had a nightmare about being inside the horror film or being chased by the blob or whatever. And that's doubly so for TV. I don't ever recall being scared by something I'd seen on TV. But I do have a few things which did genuinely scare me or leave me disquieted and like wanting to switch over the channel or like get out of the room.
Okay.
So I've got those.
Lock into that. And I think it will be a good...
It's going to be a bit abstract though. It's not going to be as
fine.
sort of...
That's fine.
But listen, because you have pivoted on me, can I now just rattle off what I had already made notes for to say, oh, I can like talk about this?
Yes, and maybe I can piggyback on it because I made a few notes as well. So please, rattle away.
So you've got lots of different types of monsters. You've got aliens like the blob, gremlins, predators, you know, the sort of the creatures. You've got the machines like the cars, robots, objects, dolls, videotapes, mirrors. Mirrors I'm very scared of. You know, I look at them every morning. I'm like, oh, Jesus. But then you've got like witches, ghosts, zombies, and of course, the Irish. The Irish and Sinners. It was like, oh, Jesus.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm dying to see it. I remember watching Candyman.
Candyman.
I watched it on videotape late one night on my own. And at the end of it, I was bursting for a pee. But I held it in until morning because I would have had to have passed the mirror. And I did not want to walk past the mirror. I just couldn't. I was so freaked out.
And how old were you then? 25?
Oh, like I was teenager. I was like in my mid-teens, 14, 15. People think I'm mad.
So the Candyman is my favorite horror film from the 90s.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a gorgeous film. It's actually really tragic. Beautiful score. It's got such a great tone and atmosphere, and the subtext is just sort of like, it's brimming. It's one of those films that it's artistic. And I know you'd expect me to say Scream, but the older I've gotten and the more I've sort of like evolved, Scream feels much more like a Scooby-Doo suspense film. Like, it's more playful.
Mm-hmm.
But I was then thinking about, aside from that, where I was like doing my list of like, you've got the cosmic, the Candymans, the Final Destinations, you've got nature with the fog, the mist, and rats and spiders and stuff. I was trying to think of what are the great horror villains of the 21st century.
Right.
Because it's gotten harder and harder for IP to sort of bed in and become established within pop culture. But I've got a few here that I think are now part of the pantheon of great horror villains.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The Babadook.
Oh, that one is fucking freaky. I remember being freaked about that one. I thought that was a great film.
Megan, the little dancing doll.
Did not find her scary at all.
Not scary, but she's part of the pop culture now. Like, she's memorable.
Yeah, true.
Art the Clown.
Is that from what was it called? The Terrifier? Or is it the Terrifier series? I haven't
the
seen
black
any
and white
of those
clowns.
films. Have you seen any of them?
I have. They're very schlocky and over the top and way, way too fucking long. Way too long. I can't remember which one I saw. Was it the second or the third one where I thought, okay, this is actually it's now so depraved and over the top and excessive that it's funny. Because he's kind of like the next evolution in Freddy Krueger, where he takes such ridiculous glee in being almost like a Looney Tunes murderer, where he will just brutalize people, and he's miming like a French mime, doing the smile and the twee thing. And I did find some of it in that sequel, I think, where he's like putting a chainsaw through somebody on the toilet, and it's just going way too long, and it's like there's just gallons and gallons and gallons of blood, and he's chopping off legs and he's chopping off arms, and he's deliriously happy at the same time, where it's like repulsive, and then it moves into a place of like trolling humor.
Yeah.
Well, you can't take it too seriously.
More than likely, I'm never going to watch any of them, right? But these are low budget films. Am I right in saying that? They're like micro budget films.
Yeah, they are low budget, but they're low budget. They're low budget and they're unrestrained. They're not held back by having to appease studio notes. So they are very indulgent, very excessive, and very, very successful. Like, they have made an absolute fortune.
And being low budget, does it wear its budget, or is it surprisingly...
Yes, all films wear their budget these days.
Well, okay, I know what you mean, yeah. But is it actually more of a... Oh, that was actually a micro-budget film, but it actually kind of looks a bit better than a micro-budget film. They've actually stretched...
No, they're not micro-budget. They might have a couple of million.
Oh, okay.
And all the money is spent on extreme special effects. Like, you are seeing people being chopped up, and it gets into like Saw territory, where he's tying people up and he's like shoving stuff down their throat and just absolutely just ruining them.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very bloody. The one that I kind of like almost enjoyed was the one that was set at Christmas.
I think that's the most recent one.
But they're not something that I am drawn to. But, he's definitely become part of pop culture. What I base this on is whether a character is toyetic and whether you can dress up as them in a costume. Like, if you want to create an iconic horror villain, they've got to be something that people can replicate. So, put them in a fucking a big purple mohawk wig and have their face painted teal and have them then wearing a yellow suit. It might look garish and horrible, but everyone's going to know what that character is. The yellow suited, purple haired, teal faced killer. Do you know, you've got to create something which is instantly identifiable, a brand for your iconography, and then people will latch on to that, and hopefully the films are at the same level. But there's another point that I was going to bring up at some stage if it came up on this topic, but because we're pivoting, I may as well say it now. There's a thing that I noticed a while back that is particular to slasher films. The original slasher films, the Halloweens and stuff like that, they were inspired by the Dahmer cases and things like where you had a guy that was going into a sorority house and he just went from room to room killing people and he absconded into the night and stuff. So they were based in reality, or based in sort of this pervasive sense of like something cultural was happening where men were killing women. There was a lot more serial killers in the news, Zodiac and even go back a bit further with Ed Gein. But what is particularly unique to slasher films that isn't true to real life is wearing masks. And I feel like, one, it's really difficult to create a mask that is iconic and just works. I think one of the last good ones was the Scream mask. Also, a Belgian film called Cub had a fantastic mask, a wood one. And everyone since that, like you've had ones for Your Next and for The Strangers and the Black Phone and stuff, but I just don't think I think they're a bit too generic. They don't hit. But I also think that whenever I see a slasher film where a guy is wearing a mask, they're doing it because they've seen it in other slasher films. Everybody's copying Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers and stuff. And that's not based in reality. Like, you don't see serial killers operating while wearing a spooky Halloween mask. That is particularly an invention for films, not based in reality.
That's interesting. And I'd never actually thought about it like that before. I find the terror of serial killers to be the most chilling thing in real life for me. And as a kid, my father
was a serial killer.
I know. If I just leave the sentence hang there, I knew you were going to finish it for me. He was always into true crime. And he would have books on true crime, whatever it was. And I remember reading a book about the Nielsen, the guy in London, the serial killer in London who chopped people up and whatnot. And also the Yorkshire Ripper. I remember reading a book on the Yorkshire Ripper when I shouldn't have been reading books about the Yorkshire Ripper when I was probably 12 or 13 and whatnot. And I remember them freaking me out. But because they were real, because they were actual events, so these were like procedural books about like, okay, this is what happened. This is how we caught him. It chilled me and horrified me more than any of the horror characters out there, like Freddy Krueger and all that sort of stuff. And also I became kind of fascinated about the rise of the serial killer in the US in the 1970s, which kind of coincided with the abundance of transportation networks like freeways and motorways and stuff like that, which meant that people were able to travel faster and for longer distances in shorter periods of time, which made these, and also the states also worked. The case of Ted Bundy, he got away with it because each state had its own isolated police unit, which really didn't coordinate with other states. So he was just he could just kill a few people in California, get away with it, go over to Nevada, kill a bunch of people, get away with it there, maybe even get arrested in Nevada and escape prison, and then go to Florida and just do a mass murder in a sorority. And I found that stuff, like the stuff that you see depicted in Mindhunter, for instance, that chilled me to the bone.
Have there ever been any serial killers in Ireland?
There have been suggestions or the possibility. There was a case of these two British lads.
Oh, well, there you go.
England is fucking shite and they hate it at the moment.
Yeah. But they actually got out. I listened to a podcast series on it recently. I know this is miserable, but these two guys were in prison in the UK. I know, but they made an agreement that when they got released early for some reason, but they made a pact that when they got out, they were going to come over to Ireland. They were going to kill a person every week. That was the idea, which is so chilling. And they
do it?
They killed two women. They got that far, and they assaulted.
When was this?
Late 1970s, or I think it was late 1970s. Yeah.
Was this like a retaliatory sort of justification?
Not at all. They were just scumbags. They were just horrible scumbags.
Cunt faces.
And they knew that they could get over to Ireland, get away with it. I think one of them might have had Irish connections or something like that. So they were the only, but they only got two. So we've never had an official case of, there's a killer on the loose. We have to stop them. But I think every country has them in some way, shape, or form. They just haven't been unmasked or discovered.
I told you before about. I don't know if I should mention it. See. This is where the echoes of all the other podcasts. So I'm like, I can't. But then it's like maybe I should tell it because it's actually interesting. But then I've told you before. But I did know a guy who was a multiple killer.
Oh, shit. I actually just know this is vague for me, but I'm sure people might be interested in. I know if you're okay divulging it. I don't know. Maybe you're not okay divulging this information.
I don't know where I told it. It might have been a Patreon thing. We might have discussed it because I feel it's kind of. No,
you definitely didn't say it on any main show episode.
I probably didn't.
No,
so, yeah, it would have been on it. So when I was about 16, 17, my best friend at the time, his mom started seeing a guy who was an odd character. He was certain people just give you a vibe. And I used to be able to knock on my mate's door and we'd go in and we'd watch The Thing together and stuff. It was that kind of thing where we'd hang out in his house and things. But then when she started seeing this guy, that all changed. Also because we'd gotten a little older. But when I'd knock on the door and say, it's mad now. This was the day when you couldn't actually just text, are you coming out or are you in or whatever. You'd have to go down and ring the doorbell, wait, they'd come out and you'd say, is David in? Is David there? And whenever he'd open the door, it was like a cold chill. Like it was an imposition to knock on the door. And I just chalked it onto that, just not a friendly vibe. And then lo and behold, probably about 6-7 months, it's time gets quite elastic when you try and recall things that happened 25 years ago. It broke in the news that he was a fugitive who'd broken out of Broadmoor prison in the UK and he'd absconded to Cork. He'd met my mate's mum. They'd got together. They'd had a baby, I think, as well. But he had killed 3 people.
Oh my God.
And he'd killed somebody when he was a kid. I think it was when he was 15. He killed a friend of his. Then he killed a Dutch policeman when he was involved in a robbery in the Netherlands. And he did prison for that. And then he killed his cellmate while he was in prison.
Jesus.
And it was something where the cellmate wanted to be put out of his misery. And so he obliged and killed him. But he was responsible for those 3 murders. And he escaped from Broadmoor. And he was, knocking about. And I do remember when that story broke, the whole terrace decided that they weren't because everybody was fond of my mate's mum's family. And she'd lived there all her life and stuff. So there was almost a protectiveness of we don't want to make a spectacle out of them. So the Sunday World and News of the World, all the newspapers were there. They were all trying to get neighbors to talk on the record, and nobody would talk. Nobody would discuss it or add fuel to the fire. And he got arrested. He got extradited back to the UK. I think he was actually then dismissed by the judge, where it was he was able to prove that he had turned his life around or whatever. And so they let him return home to Cork, and then they moved away. But that was mad to me. It was sort of
Wow.
being in the midst of a national story, and it was my mate's mum.
And
but yeah, it was just the reason I bring it up is because there was an instant vibe that was that guy is like,
Something's off.
he either doesn't like me, but I definitely don't like him.
I find myself more compelled by the tales of real life serial killers than I am of the fantastical boogeymen. So the Ted Bundys for me, and when or the Ed Gein, or the guy that was in Mindhunter, the really tall 6'7" dude, or Zodiac. Those are the ones that chill me to the bone. But I'm also, but no, from a slasher point of view, Zodiac is a different example. You're talking about them not wearing masks. Zodiac wore a mask. He had this
Yeah, but these are, I'm not talking about guys that would wear a ski mask or wear a balaclava. That would happen. I'm talking about the very ornate, like a guy that would wear a fucking devil horned mask, or somebody that would wear a ghost face thing or whatever.
Zodiac
like,
had an outfit.
Sense.
Zodiac actually had an outfit. He had like a symbol.
Yeah, but it was all. Oh, yeah, okay. But when serial killers do kill, they don't tend to be dressed up like a Halloween costume.
I know what you mean.
That's my point. So whenever I see that, I'm like, I see that in films, I'm like, you're doing that because you're copying another film. It becomes so reductive and iterative of what's come before that it makes me think immediately less of the film.
Can I add one? You were talking about horror icons from, and I wouldn't say it's iconic, but horror villains from the 21st century that made a kind of lasting impact on you. One that I'm going to add, like I would say that would be on my list if I was like throwing one out there from the 21st century, is a film that I watched last year, which really did do a number on me for the first 2/3 of the film, starring Nicolas Cage, Longlegs. That
I never saw it.
The character he plays essentially a serial killer in that, and he goes full Nick Cage serial killer in that performance. It really unsettled me. The vocal performance by Nicolas Cage in how he depicted that character was just so unnerving. He wasn't wearing a mask. The film doesn't hold together, but it freaked me out enough.
Well, that segues me onto my top 10 favorite horror films of the 21st century.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of classics that I have talked about, but I decided, let me just see if I can make a top 10 list here. And I did. So we don't need to talk about all these, but I'll rattle them off and see what you think. So these are my 10 favorites now of the 21st century.
Right.
I have His House.
I don't know what that is.
That was the Netflix film that was about the Sudanese refugees that went to London and they were put up in social housing, and a entity has followed them there. And it was fantastic. It was a really, I recommended it at least somewhere on the pod, maybe on one of the mini bits episodes when we used to do those. Absolutely worth watching. The Wailing, Let the Right One In, the Ring remake that Gore Verbinski did, The Invisible Man, The Others, Under the Skin, and then my top 3 would be Get Out, It Follows, and Hereditary.
Get Out, It Follows, and Hereditary. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen Get Out. I've seen It Follows. I have not seen yet, and I do want to see Hereditary.
Yes, you're never going to watch it.
I know I will. I know it genuinely. If there's one, like let's say for instance, I went and I sought out Get Out. I sought out Hereditary. I will seek out the top of the bunch, and Hereditary freaked me out. Like I really, I genuinely, I think it was the most terrifying thing I've seen in the last 10 years. And the performances I thought were just incredible. That young teenager who is just freaking out, fucking freaking out and panicking.
I think he's a twin, that guy. Nate Wolf, I think it is. He's got a brother that is spitting image of him. It's always a case of like, which one is this now? Is this the guy from Hereditary or is this the guy from Death Note?
They are both actors.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that. I didn't know that.
There's another British guy as well who is an identical twin. Luke and Harry Treadaway. But whenever he pops up, it's like, is it that guy or is it his brother? They're spitting image of each other. So they get this sort of like divide and conquer. They go into the world and sort of like, it's like, fucking hell, they're like Pedro Pascal, they're in every fucking thing. But it's... If I
had twins, identical twins, I'd just give them the same name. I just give them the same name, same birth certificate, same passport, and let the world be their oyster. And let them fucking go out there and cause all sorts of chaos.
What if they're a boy and a girl?
Still the same name.
Okay. So you wanted to pivot. I don't have stuff that I saw on telly that scared me.
Okay.
I've never seen anything on TV that shit me up to the point where I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to watch that Twilight Zone episode again ever because it is horrible. But I do have like sensory revulsion to certain things, and that was often music.
Music in isolation or music in media?
Music to the TV shows.
Oh.
One of them was a show called The Picture Box. And I have mentioned this
know
before.
the one you're on about. And the opening title credits.
Yeah, of that crystal thing turning around.
Oh, yes.
There was something really haunted about that, where it felt so evil.
Yes.
Whatever feeling it was evoking. And I would be catching this on the telly. This was apparently something for like family entertainment. It was like a children's thing.
Yeah.
God almighty. I'd be 4 years of age and it's like that sound is coming from some netherworld that I don't want to be anywhere near. And I would actually get up and run out of the room when it would come on. It is such a disturbing, haunting, I don't know what you call it. It's like those wind-up boxes that would just play. It's going around and around.
It's off tune.
Yeah, maybe that's it. It's like a minor key thing, but
yeah.
It was just horrible. It used to really disturb me. This is like still with me 40 years later.
That's it. And it wasn't just that. There was a whole series of opening title theme tunes from children's BBC shows. They all went for, let's go for unsettling. And now
the Doctor Who one used to freak me out as well.
Yeah, there was one.
Dun, 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 dun.
So unsettling. And I do not know who was the commissioner at the time, who was like going, put that ahead of this delightful children's entertainment. That surely will get them to sleep. That will sure. Like, what was the ethos? What was the idea of like the conversation, the notes meeting of like, what do you want? Yeah, I want them to have fucking nightmares. I want them to have nightmares before they start watching the actual, ahead or like, it's just fucking baffling to me.
But the scariest one of all for me was the Glenroe theme. Whenever that would come on. Oh my God. Oh Jesus, here we go.
That would conjure
School in the morning.
It was dread. It was a sense of imminent dread.
I haven't had my homework done. Oh God.
One.
So that's my number 3. Is those musical themes.
That's brilliant. I'm going to say, my number 3 is very, very specific to me, right? But this freaked the fuck out of me, and I think anyone who was of my exact age, so you might have been a bit too young for this,
also a bit too tough.
The TV series The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I only know of this from osmosis of like people talking about the end of the Hulk theme where it's very melancholic and stuff. And I remember Paul talking about that, Paul from Cartoon Saloon, but I've never seen the Incredible Hulk show. I've seen clips, but I don't know it.
It was a great show. I remember when he began to transform into the Hulk, into Lou Ferrigno's Hulk, I would literally jump behind the couch, put my hands over my ears, and like I would be screaming, saying, "Just tell me when he's gone! Just tell me when he's gone! Tell me when he's gone!" And my mother chuckling, kind of going, look at what's wrong with you? He's just, don't worry about it. And my brother teasing me to say, he's gone now, or he's coming out of the TV, he's going to get you. But I have spoken to other people around my age, and they all were traumatized by this cartoon hero / villain character who would inevitably, in every episode, would go through this transformation process. And maybe it was,
what was the transformation process? He just used to like roar in slow motion, and suddenly
his eyes. It was more like what would happen is it was kind of like maybe it was the same sensation people got when they watched the wolf transformation or the werewolf transformation in American Werewolf in London. It was seeing him in agony, seeing his eyes going white. So he himself, like the human actor, his eyes are like going white, and he's like, oh, and you hear this heartbeat and then this low growl. It was the idea that this good man was going to become possessed and turn into something that was primal and a monster, essentially. And there was something uncontrollable and terrifying about it, so it was the idea that a normal guy, like that you see who was like your dad, could become that monster. That idea in itself is so unsettling, especially to someone who's like 4 or
What's
5.
that word?
Did you use it again? You're the one who's using it more than me.
No, you did.
You're using it.
No, you're using it more than me.
You're using it more than me.
It's when you're talking about that I'm looking back at my notes there for the original version of this episode. Because that, to me, that sort of unsettling feeling of people no longer being themselves was going to be top of my list for horror villains. So I originally had like the Thing monster.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
In my top 3, I was going to sort of shift it around based on how we spoke. Then I had Freddy Krueger, because there's something, it's like two-sided with Freddy Krueger. You can't escape him. You have to sleep. So you have to submit. And when you submit to sleep, he's going to get you in your nightmares. And I just think that is one of the gold star premises for any film. And they've even now done it in action films where they'll invert it and stuff. But my number 1 was going to be Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Because there is something really, like, awful about being surrounded by people who are no longer who they say they are. On that sense of, like, overpowering despair where everyone is changing and you're not sure, but they're not themselves anymore. And you don't feel safe. So that was going to be my number 1, which was the Pod People from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Because there is something really dark about when people get possessed or taken over or they're no longer themselves. You spoke about it just recently with the Indiana Jones where Indy turned bad. There's like a betrayal element as well. But
it's to a child. I think there's nothing more terrifying than the idea of the grown-up, the most powerful people in your universe, who are your parents, suddenly becoming bad and suddenly becoming a predator.
You one ugly motherfucker.
That is one of the most unsettling concepts I think you could ever present to.
We can't say unsettling anymore. We can't.
Disquieting concepts that you could ever present any child. One of my most vivid nightmares as a kid was being in some sort of large cavern, right, where all these people at different areas, and up high I could see lights coming out of tunnels up high and whatnot, and it was like we were underground. We were in a cavern, but I was tightly holding onto my mother's hand, and she just turned to look at me, and she had a monster's face.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, that was one of the most unsettling nightmares I ever had.
Oh, don't say it anymore now. Like, let's find another word. Let's not say unsettling anymore.
Happy. Horrible. Awful.
Google a synonym there for unsettled.
Truly.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
But anyway, so that's what I think there's something so go on.
So I learned this recently, and whenever I realize that an experience I've had is universal, it's not distinct to me, I find that really fascinating.
Okay.
And there are 2 incredibly common nightmares or memories or dreams that children have that an awful lot of people share. And one of them is the feeling of jumping from the top of the stairs and floating all the way down to the bottom. And my hypothesis on this is that it is the beginning of consciousness forming in a child. When a child is picked up and it's carried down the stairs by its parents, it's in their arms. And then that becomes part of a dream scenario in their head where the parents are no longer there, but they're still up off the ground and are going down the stairs. So I definitely had those memories. I remember being like 9 or 10 and thinking I used to be able to jump from the top of the stairs and float all the way down to the bottom.
Wow.
And then I read that that's a very, very common memory that kids have of floating down the stairs. And I bet you somebody listening to this is like, fuck, I used to have that as well. But the other one is a very common nightmare that kids have. It's being in an abstract place, a place of geometric shapes.
Yeah.
You're becoming incredibly tiny in a huge, expansive, flat place. And that's another very, very common nightmare that children have. It's not monsters, it's not ghosts, it's before they've ever seen any of those things. It's the sense of being infinitesimally small in an endlessly huge geometric place that doesn't look like nature, that doesn't look like anything else. And I used to have those nightmares as well. So yeah.
I grew up in a bungalow. So I would never have had that experience growing up. But my kids have all grown up in houses with stairs. So I'm going to ask them to see if that is in their consciousness. I'd be very curious to see if...
I bet if you Googled it right now, if you just typed in sense memory of children floating downstairs, or however you want to phrase it, I bet you stuff will come up about it.
The sense memory of children floating down the stairs is commonly explained by a combination of vivid dreams, psychological responses to dangerous situations, and fragmented memories of being carried while half asleep. Well, if you believe these were real experiences, most explanations point to these being dreams, imaginative play, or a psychological effect of slowing time in a moment of stress.
There you go.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just you.
We're not as individual and as unique as we think. That a lot of us have an awful lot of the same emotional responses to things, and we keep it bottled up in our head. So I would have sworn that I was the only person in the world that ever had this sensation of I used to be able to float down the stairs. And then I learned that that's a very, very common memory or dream that kids have. So my number 2.
Yes.
So this is a genuine one, though. There was never anything on TV, as I said, that used to scare me. That was a TV show. It would be the music. I didn't like that. There'd be movies I'd see on TV that would shit me up. Like, as I said to you before, watching The Blob with my Uncle Eric. And just being in a fucking cold sweat, then realizing years later, it's a comedy. It's like a fucking comedy. And I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. Seeing the Dan Aykroyd jump scare at the start of the Twilight Zone movie.
Oh, yes.
You want to see something really scary?
Scare me.
Are you ready?
Okay, go ahead. What are you doing?
But you know how I was telling you about that triple murderer guy that I knew when I was 16, 17, and just getting a bad vibe from him. There was a guy on Telly that was beloved, and he was often put in front of children, and he used to genuinely creep me out. And I'm not being glib now, and I'm not taking the piss. I'm not saying it for a laugh, but it's Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile used to freak me out, and he was on TV an awful lot in the 80s with Jim Will Fix It For You, and people would sit down to watch it, the family would sit down to watch it, where the kid would get to fucking meet Mr. T, or they'd get to ride a sports car, or they'd get to, pet a pony or whatever it was, but it was Jimmy, can you fix it for me? But him himself, I used to get him mixed up as well with Wurzel Gummidge, so I also thought Wurzel Gummidge was a fucking creep. But there was something deeply off-putting, not unsettling.
Well done, Pivot.
Off-putting about him. And the other thing that draws up for me that I thought I would mention is, do you know when somebody gets found out to have been a wrong'un? And the common thing that is reported in the news or by neighbours when they asked him, it's like they never any signs or whatever, or he was such a nice person or whatever. I have the opposite feeling, which is that it's always the one I've suspected. It's always the one that I thought was a bit dangerous that turns out to actually be dangerous. Because certain people have dead eyes. They have cold eyes. And I'll give you one example of what I'm talking about. Russell Brand, to me, always had a very sinister expression. No matter whether he's smiling, no matter whether he's being erudite and funny, he was incredibly quick-witted. It's almost like a pantomime dame, the way he'd be on TV and flouncing about the place and whatever. But his eyes were deeply fucking sinister and black to me, that to look directly into them, there was nothing there. There was something really... There was an absence of warmth. And there are certain people that just have that. Whenever I meet them, it's like it's so plain to me that they're not a good person. And yet other people tend to just, I don't know.
It's the vibes.
I have often wondered how many people get killed by being polite. Sort of like putting themselves in positions where they know that they shouldn't be there, but they don't want to be rude, so that they're polite. And it ends up with them getting strangled or whatever. So never put yourself in a bad position because you want to be polite. My advice to her.
I never
listen to your gut. Listen to that twinge in your stomach, because it's honed by thousands of generations, and you are the product of every successful life that has come before you. And you have to think that hundreds upon hundreds of your ancestors have been in situations where they could have gone left or right, and their gut said go left, and they went left. So each time your gut is honed. So when you're in a situation where it's like, I don't feel safe here, something's not right about it, don't push through that barrier to be polite or to not make a show. Actually, just listen to your gut and extricate yourself from that situation if you can. That would be my advice.
Did I ever, and I don't know, this is one of these conversations that has, again, it's wandered all over the shop, but it's stirring up things that I think are interesting to share with each other anyway, and I want to share with you. I don't know if I ever spoke to you about the very, very close call I had when I was a kid.
We did, about a guy that pulled up with your brothers and he had a bicycle or something. No, I'm serious. Wasn't there some guy who had a bicycle and he was like, yeah.
But that's a yeah. But for the sake of the listeners who mightn't have heard,
I have a notebook here, and at the end of every time we talk, I write down things important to Will, and I'll put them down in my notebook so I can refer to them, like your birthday and your hopes and dreams and
my nightmares in particular. But yeah, very, very quickly, we grew up in the fairly innocent, safe feeling countryside up in northwest Cork. We used to go running up the fields and exploring up the fields on the adventures of
gallivanting.
It felt like we would go up. Basically, our childhood was the highlight of our our adventures at the weekends were, are we going up the fields? That was it. Also, our neighbours, we would gather together. They had 2 dogs, and we would just go exploring. It was like the famous 5.
Would it be like the House in the Prairie, where they're running down the hill?
I wouldn't say it was more like the famous 5. We were like galloping. We were kind of just galloping. We might try and dragging bikes behind us, dogs pulling us, and we were just. And we had homemade weapons. That's where we're all had homemade weapons, gallivanting, climbing trees, hacking at ditches and brambles.
And you had a whip.
And I would have had my own lightsaber, which was a golf club with the head broken off it, and I put blue masking tape on one and red masking tape on another. So that was my weapon of choice. But one of the landmarks of our daily kind of safe space of play was yards down from our gate. There was a bridge, and a bridge that you would pass without even knowing there was a bridge there. It was just like literally a few blocks, and there was a stream going underneath the road. But we would often just go down to the bridge, sit on the bridge, throw stones and chat. That's what we would do. So this one day, me and my 2 older brothers were down at the bridge. I'd say
what do you think it's going to be like when we grow up? I reckon everything's going to be peachy keen.
This is me and my brothers. We were all fighting. It's like, come on, will you stop? And Padraig almost going, I bet I could jump off this and not break my legs. I bet you I could jump from this bridge all the way across the river and I'd land and I'll do a tumble roll and I'll fucking win the All-Ireland final while doing it. And I'd be like, don't, Padraig, don't do it. He says, I'll do it. Do you want to see me do it? I'll do it. We're like, don't, Padraig. And John just going, I don't give a fuck. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I don't give a fuck. So the two boys, I would have been on the back of my oldest brother's bike. You know the way you'd have he would have a saddle, but he'd have like a carrier on the back. So I would be sat on that. So there we were.
Not on the handlebars?
On the bridge. No, not on the handlebars. Never did the handlebars. No, never. Just did the back. And we were sitting there, and all of a sudden, a car pulls up, and just ahead of us, and out of the car. It was two lads. Two lads got out of the car, two grown men, and they were smiling at us. And they just kind of went, "How are you, lads?" And we're like, "Yeah, hi, how are you?" But immediately, this is what, as you said, immediately, and I was the youngest, I got the sense of, this isn't right. Something's up here. This is not right. And they said, come here, lads. We'll give you a spin home. Throw your bikes in the boot there, and we'll drop you home. And my oldest brother said to us, he was like, he said, no, we live right there. We actually live just there. He says, no, throw your bikes into the boot, and we'll drop you home. Come on. And they started moving towards us. And I remember John just saying to me, get on the back of my bike. And I got on really quick, and we skedaddled out of there. But my brother Padraig, the middle guy, the guy who would jump over the river, he was lagging behind us, and he said that, they were kind of like trying to kind of corner him a little bit, like, But that was the closest we came to, like, we don't know what would have happened, but it was such a strange encounter and a random moment of terror that just all of a sudden manifested in the safest of places.
North Cork.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Northwest Cork.
Oh, it's very important. Cork. Then that brings me on to asking you, what are the moments in your life where you've been genuinely scared? It doesn't have to be like near-death experiences, but like, are there any moments where you think, oh my God, I was shitting it there?
I've been in a couple of situations where I've felt things are going to go a little bit tits up. One was in Tralee, where
that explains it.
One, like any place, it has its rough areas and not so rough areas. But I was in college. One of my buddies, he had his bike stolen from a bar. We're all drunk at the stage, but broke. Drunk but broke. We got drunk on vouchers that another buddy of ours had a bunch of. So
butter
we probably
vouchers.
had about meal vouchers, potato vouchers. But we had about 6 pence between us. We went up and down between the pubs asking the bouncers, did anyone come by in a bike? And one of the bouncers said, your bike is more than likely in one place. And it's in a place that was synonymous with tough characters called the Bull Ring. And he said they would have taken your bike and it's gone to the Bull Ring, and that bike ain't coming back. So this is like after midnight. This is could be 1 a.m. And we were walking up and down, and my buddy looked down in the direction of the Bull Ring, which is like a city block away, we'll say, the entrance to it. And he saw under a streetlight, he saw a bunch of lads down there. And he just said, I'm getting my bike back. And I said, you're not getting your bike back. And he says, I'm getting my fucking bike back. And he started walking down this lonely, it was more of a lonely lane. And I just saw him walking, and I went, he's going to be killed. He is going to be killed. So
did you go with him?
I went with him. So because I knew,
that's good.
I said, I knew he's going to get fucked up here. And I said, as we're approaching the lads, I said to him, don't fucking say a word. Let me do the talking. Because I knew he had a hot head on. So if I would go in and just kind of, my plan was to be more chill about it, like, and more whatever. And as soon as we started approaching the guys.
Oh, that's a slice bike. Yoink.
But I'll tell you, this was like something out of a film. It was actually something like felt like a scene out of a film. The group that were underneath the streetlight, they just fanned out across the road. Like it wasn't like they were going to they were not letting us pass. They fanned out across the road facing us. Said, what are you doing what are you doing coming into our territory?
How old were we and how old were they?
We were in college, so we were about maybe, I'd say 20, 19, 20, we'll say. The guys that were there were all similar age, maybe older, I would say. And I said to him, remember, I'll say nothing. I'll do the talking. And as soon as I said, I remember as soon as I said, I'll do the talking. My buddy says,
Hi, lads.
my buddy said, he said, no, lads, I'm not accusing you of anything, but I know you stole my fucking bike.
I love it.
I was like, oh, fuck. Oh,
That is
fuck.
Classic.
And so
That's
guys,
a great line for a scene in a script.
So they encircled us. So the guys that have fanned out across the street encircled us. And I'm going, we're dead. We're actually
Like Red
dead,
Indians.
right? Yeah, I said, we're actually dead. And what was immediately apparent was that there was an alpha in the group. And he said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know, he says, my bike, he started going through the details. My bike was there. My bike isn't there anymore. Like, it was there half an hour ago. It's not there anymore. Someone went into the pub and actually took my bike, blah, 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 blah. And he says, what are you? And then this guy who was kind of very aggressive towards us, this other guy, an older guy, was in the background. And he quietly stepped forward. No, I can't remember what color, because it was street lights.
He's probably ginger.
Color.
Yeah.
He stepped forward and he said, I know where your bike is. Come on with me, I'll sort out your bike. And he started to lead my buddy away down into the bull ring, right? And they said, they shouted back to me, you stay there, I'll take your buddy down to get his bike. And I just went, no fucking way, I'm coming with you. So the two of us start walking into the bull ring, and it was like entering a completely different
What's
space.
the bull ring? Is it like a pub?
It's a housing estate area, right? With a big field in the middle. So anyway, long story short, this guy, the older guy, stands with us in the middle of this field, and I said to the older guy, who was just kind of smiling at us. He didn't raise. He was just kind of like nodding along, smiling with us. And I said, look, honest to Christ, we've got nothing. We have nothing. This is all he has is his bike. We just want the bike back. That's it. No, like if we can get a few bob, we'll come down with a few bob for it, whatever. But we have nothing. And
you pay them.
Oh yeah, because we knew that's what they were after. They wanted. Oh, actually, no, they were actually. I think one of them turned your pockets out. We want to see what you have. I think we actually had to show.
Do you know, I'd get
nothing.
killed because I don't know. I've too much pride in myself. I would go into berserker mode, and I'd get absolutely bounced up and down the fucking road, but I'd still like go fucking honey badger.
Meow.
And I'd be like, all right, okay, you're not going to give me my bike. I'm going to blind you. And that'd be that.
we were screwed. So, aggressive guy comes back with his bike, right? He meets us in a minute. He's sitting on the bike. He's standing on the bike with older guy and me and my buddy. And I'm after having a few words with older guy, right? Kind of saying, look, come here. We haven't a fucking clue what we're doing. We're just trying to get his bike back. I was doing that placating thing. And the other guy, aggressive guy, comes back and he says, right, I want £20 for the bike. £20 for the bike. And we said, we've nothing. We have fucking nothing.
I'd actually rip his throat out with my teeth.
So we are saying we have nothing. He's becoming more and more adamant and a little bit more aggressive, saying, you're like, oh, well, this is what we want. And then suddenly, quite older guy said, give him the bike. And aggressive guy goes, what the fuck? Is aggrieved. And he says, give him the fucking bike. So he hands over the bike to us, right? And we're like, to the older guy, Jesus, thanks a million, like, fair play to you, thanks very much. Like, he says, don't worry,
You thanked him.
I thanked the older guy, right? So she's fair play to you. And as we're walking away, older guy says,
Thank
we're
you,
walking
sir,
away
for your
bike.
mercy. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, listen a bit. Older guy says to us, he says, put your friend on the bike and get out of here. And he says, all right. And we kept walking, and he says, put your friend on the fucking bike and get out of here now.
Guy thought he was in the Sopranos.
I went on to. We end up getting the bike, cycled out, went back to the bouncer who told us where we were. And these were guys who were local guys that we would have known, like, they were older gentlemen, like lads who were local.
And we got a pair of slash hooks, and we cycled back down. He said, come here, here's your fucking 20 quid.
We said, oh, this is what happens, blah, blah, blah. There was a guy, and actually, fair play to this other guy, he actually gave us the fucking bike. And your man said, did the guy look like this? He asked us. He gave us a specific description,
Ginger.
and we said yes, and he said,
Ginger.
"You do not realize
Told you.
how lucky you are. You don't realize how lucky you are." He got out of prison last year for murdering his uncle over a fucking game of snooker.
And that man, Jackie Healy-Ray.
I voted for him in every election since. So you can cut this, Kevin.
So my number one.
What's your number one? And I'll give you my couple.
Your couple?
Very quickly.
Your
My
couple
number
of what? Your honorable mentions?
Scary TV things. Scary TV things. Top 3 scary TV things.
Yeah, so there is only one legitimate thing that scared me on TV, that was made for TV, that was scripted, and its intention was to be frightening, and it was frightening. And then it got re-edited into a movie that you could rent. But I first saw it on TV, and when I was thinking about this, I was like, well, there's been stuff that I've watched that did excite me and was kind of scary, like the conspiracy episode in TNG. Remember the one where they had the little tails at the back of their necks and they were eating the maggots and stuff? That was originally meant to be the Borg. That was going to be the villain. Whoa. Instead of the Borg. They're going to bring back those things.
That was several years back. That was like season 1, I'm pretty
Only
sure, wasn't it?
2 years back. Yeah, it would have been season 1. The end of I think it was like episode 22, Conspiracy was the name of it, which for me is indicative of, or it flies in the face of people saying Riker's beard was when the show got good. But they had some good episodes at the end of season 1. Anyway, it's not that. The thing that did genuinely scare me, and I've gone back and watched it since, and it's come up in the past on the podcast, and people in the Discord have thought it didn't hold up, but for me, I think it is still incredibly fucking cool, is Salem's Lot, the 2-part.
Oh, it's honorable mention for me.
Stop, holy man! You can do nothing against the master.
They're breeding on one another. The vampires are creating vampires.
The master wants you.
It's a geometric progression. 2 times 2 times 4 times 8.
There's a dead man upstairs.
Bill! Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil.
Look at me. Ned Tibbetts' body has disappeared from the morgue.
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Bill!
It would have been maybe 87, because I was living in Roman Street. I'd just come over from England. So it would have been that time period. But on RTE, or Network 2 maybe, they showed one night part 1 and the next night part 2.
Yeah.
And I watched that 2-parter with my hands over my eyes for half of it.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. Genuinely terrifying. Like the vampire outside the window and tapping and like, let me in.
Yeah.
Or Juliet Lewis's dad on the rocking chair. And he has been bitten. He was like the gravedigger, and he's in the rocking chair, and the priest is downstairs, and where it was just so quiet. Just hearing the rocking chair and the priest going up the stairs, and he's expecting the guy to be laying up in bed. This is when the conspiracy is starting to take root, and the town is starting to get overrun by vampires. And he opens the door, and he's like hissing like a snake almost. His neck is like undulating. And he gets up and their eyes are like glowing white. And I was fucking terrified, like genuinely shitting myself. And I thought that miniseries, like when I think about fantastic adaptations to Stephen King works, you got Shawshank Redemption, obviously. The Mist is very good.
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me is amazing. Yeah, fantastic. Shining, obviously, but that's very loose adaptation. Still prefer it to the book.
It's close enough. Yeah, but it's an adaptation of the book.
Oh, come here, it's close enough. I wouldn't be agreed with that note at all.
Carrie.
I don't really like Carrie.
Carrie, the book, is better than the film, I think.
And the film as well.
Carrie, the book, I actually thought the book was a really good read. Very, very good read. But you were saying Salem's Lot is up there?
A superb adaptation of a Stephen King work.
Yeah,
certainly better than Dreamcatchers
and
Weasels.
I think it taps into a little bit of what we were talking about earlier on, the idea of people who once you would have considered your closest allies, your kith and kin, to quote Clark Griswold from Christmas Vacation, becoming monsters.
Yeah, it's that sense of being overrun, that there's more of them than there is of you. And the vampires have always scared me a lot more than zombies or ghosts or anything like that. Werewolves, there's this sense of like, do you know what, as well?
Yeah.
It wasn't scary, but it was really superb television. And it's come up in the past, and I want to recommend it again to you. If part of the reason why we're doing this is to get people to watch these things. I would absolutely recommend Salem's Lot. Even if you think it's a bit slow, maybe watch the movie cut, which sort of truncates the 4-hour edit down to like about 3 hours, I think. But the other thing I want to recommend again to you is Midnight Mass, the Mike Flanagan adaptation he did quite recently. For me, Mike Flanagan's miniseries, his TV stuff, is far more enjoyable than his films. So I loved Haunting of Hill House. Had the bent neck lady in it. That was superb. But his Midnight Mass series that he did about 3 or 4 years ago was fantastic. And again, it has to do with vampires. But that sense of a town being overrun, oh my God, there's few things more unsettling.
I love getting those types of recommendations where they're emphatic recommendations of like, you should really watch this, because the horror genre is not a comfort genre for me. It's not a place I go to where I'm like, I'll throw something on. I kind of want to watch that because that'll be kind of, I'm in the mood. When I'm endeavoring to watch a film from the horror genre, it's only done so after I've been given some serious recommendations by several people, and I know I'm going to go in and I'm going to see a quality film. So I only endeavor to watch the stuff that's really, really good. I had to be talked into watching Aliens by my neighbor Shirley when I was a kid, and she had to actually say, okay, this is the bit that this happens. It's not that scary. It's not that. You'll get over it. And I remember kind of like put my hands over my eyes and, for the chest buster scene and whatnot.
Burster.
But what?
Chest burster.
What did I say?
Chest buster.
Okay. Chest burster.
I just know you enjoy when I correct you pedantically.
Oh, it's just, I love it. It's just
a bit unsettling, I suppose.
But my point is that once I get over that initial watch, for instance, The Orphanage, I remember The Orphanage and Hereditary conjured the same feeling of, I want to escape. You have me in a state of fright that I want to escape your clutches, but I appreciate the craftsmanship and I can go back and watch it and I'll never have that same level of dread that I experienced the first time I watched them. So it's a unique thing. It's a very, very unique thing. And it's too potent for me, to just willy-nilly scare the shit out of myself.
So what's your number one?
My number one scary figure from TV is something I only discovered in recent years. And I think a lot of people will resonate. And it's Bob from Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Bob freaked
That's a very
the
good one.
fuck out of me. And the fact, and it's...
Did you watch Twin Peaks Return then? Did you get to...
No, I haven't got there yet, but I'm talking about Bob and season
forget
1.
everything else I've recommended. You need to start on that.
So that's what, and this is my intention, is that this is going to be a long-term project for me. But that the first reveal of Bob, when we have that David Lynch, it's basically her recalling her going into Laura Palmer's bedroom, and it's in daylight, and the camera pans across the bed and her desk and all her posters and whatnot. And it's such a, it's perfect, it's pristine, it's the typical teenage girl bedroom. And then she wakes up in dread and sweats, and the camera pans across, and you see fucking Bob crouching behind her bed. Oh my God. It's so unnerving. And the fact that it happened by accident. This is one of those...
Wasn't he on the crew or something? He was
a set dresser.
Yeah.
He was a set dresser. And he accidentally appeared. He was in shot when fucking David Lynch looked at the monitor, and he went, "Oh my God, Frank, stay there, Frank," and he just shot it. And all of a sudden, Bob
that was a good
became
impression.
a character in it. Listen, it's my backup plan. So Bob became something that was impulsive, and like, again, speaking to what you were saying about how modern day horror icons have become like photocopies of photocopies of photocopies.
Mm-hmm.
David Lynch was someone who was operating on this intuitive gut level. That he understood dreams on a way that no other filmmaker, I feel, did. But he understood horror and dread in a way that I don't think many other filmmakers ever have or ever will.
The hobo
saw
in
something.
Mulholland Drive, when he takes him outside behind the dumpsters or whatever.
Yeah. So I find Bob was one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in any TV show, ever. And I don't know if it'll ever be topped. That's my pick.
My takeaway from watching Twin Peaks: The Return was that David Lynch was breaking the conventions of TV and putting stuff on TV that I didn't know not only that you could do, but that the format could contain or hold. He really was like a one in a generation type filmmaker, and I don't know that even if there was somebody out there that was as daring and that as singular as him, that the industry still exists in a way that would support somebody to express themselves the way that he did. But Twin Peaks Return was just magnificent, like magnificent storytelling stuff that he put in that. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. And it was he had an incredible knack for making you feel like you were sharing in his dreams, that you were like having a collective dream with him. Like Lost Highway was that. It was just this, pure nightmare logic, dream logic through it, and nobody else has come close to matching him while he was alive, and I don't think anyone's going to be able to fill his boots now he's gone.
He's the filmmaker I think I've come to late in my life in my appreciation for, and the more material documentaries or books I've read that he's done, and his dedication to even transcendental meditation, I just think he was so special, really, really special.
Do you know what I found really
unsettling
and sad about his passing was the estate sale that happened just recently, where some of his private effects were being sold. And it's a similar feeling that I had when there was some sort of YouTube documentary, maybe it was a Reddit post, that went into the house of somebody who'd recently died, and he was a collector, and he collected all of the Star Trek memorabilia. And you could tell that this was somebody's, not just, it wouldn't be like their life's work, but it was like a lifelong hobby. And they had like a museum's worth of Star Trek stuff, from the mask to the toys to the ornaments to the books. It was like there's no custodian to that anymore. That person is gone, and they've left all this behind, and now it's probably going to get dumped in a landfill or just scattered wherever. And it was so tragic to me. It was like, God, if they knew now that all that stuff they spent all that time collecting is now just, it means nothing to anybody else. It's worthless. And to see the stuff, David Lynch's letters to others and pipes and stuff like that just being sold off and auctioned off. I don't know. It's almost like when you die, you should be able to take everything you own with you. Take it all.
I agree. Well, that was some meander, Kevin. That was some meander.
Fuck. I don't even know where we were, like what we were talking about.
We were talking about David Lynch. That's what happened. What ended up happening was my audio got cut out and my whole system broke down. So now we've jumped back on mic to try and get ourselves back up and running. So we're talking about poor old David Lynch, and he's my pick for her.
Well, there you go. So, hope you all had a good Halloween.
Yes.
And with no homework. Well, do you have anything to recommend that I can do?
You gave me Midnight Mass.
I can't go trick-or-treating again, not with the ankle tag.
But this time, you've the trick-or-treaters coming to you. So this time, when they come to the door, I'm asking you, just put some extra tablets in their treats or something like that. Or, you know, they say give kids glow sticks instead of treats, and they much prefer having glow sticks.
How much are glow sticks?
I don't know. We are at least $5 a pop or something like that. Sure, that's how I
fuck
live
off.
the house.
They can fuck off. Although chocolate's gotten very expensive lately.
Everything's gone very expensive lately, Kevin. You know,
that's true.
It's universal.
But not our Patreon. We have not raised our prices, and a lot of people have. We are actually incredibly affordable. So if you want to come over and support the podcast and get a lot more content from us, have us on in the background while we're talking away to each other. It'll work better than therapy. That's a guarantee. And you'd be supporting us, and we'd love it. And we love doing the podcast. And also, can you recommend us to people you know? And can you rate and review the podcast? None of you've done it. I don't know if there's some sort of like vendetta you've got against us. We need to let people know.
None of it since the last time. But we've had
3.
We've had a few. That would categorize
4 actually
as a few. So if you haven't yet, please do it. It would be great. It'll help our exposure, help our visibility out there. I'd really appreciate it. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
All right, that'll do, Will.
Chat soon. Bye bye.
See ya.
He's talking about spooks, 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 real genuine spooks, 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 spooks.
No use to putting up your dukes. You just can't fight them spooks. I'm cutting out of here, man. I don't dig this jive. No.
Wait for us, wait for us, wait for us, wait for us.
Candyman.
Unsettling.